Welcome to Demolition Success Secrets, the podcast that's changing the game for demolition businesses everywhere. Ever wondered how a wrecking ball wielding industry can leverage digital marketing to dominate their market? Well, we've got the blueprints, strategies, expert guests, and more to show you how. Stay tuned, because we're about to blast through the barriers of your business.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to a very, very special episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Today we have a longtime friend, a mentor, someone that I look up to. We have Jared Herschend on the line, and Jared is a family business expert specialist. He comes from a long line of winners and very, very smart people. He has overseen multiple generations of their family business. Jared, you're third generation, correct?
First member of the fourth generation.
Wow. Okay. Amazing. And I've always looked up to you as some background guys. I used to work with Jared. And to be frank, I thought he was one of the owners of that company at first. When I first came in, I'm like, this guy's really put together. He's smart. This must be an owner I didn't know of at the company that I was working at the time, alongside Jared. So yeah, Jared's awesome. And in this demo business world, in this industry, so many of you guys are multiple generations. So Jared, welcome to the podcast, man. I hope that was a decent enough intro.
That was phenomenal. Thanks for having me. I look forward to answering your questions and helping these family businesses grow.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, let's just start kind of your background. So tell me about Jared and tell me about how you became a specialist in the family business realm.
Well, seeped in a family business that started a long time ago in the early 50s. My family had an idea and wanted to be an entrepreneurial group. So they did, and just watched it, and growing up I grew up in Branson, Missouri, and you were just around it. You were in the town, the business was there. You'd go to work with your dad, you'd go to work with your grandpa or your grandma, and it just didn't seem like it was anything. That was kind of the norm. But as I went to college and started to get out, started to see how unique family businesses could be, that there was something special about the family business, and that we were doing things right in the family business space. I kind of started paying attention, started volunteering to be on committees, to help with projects in and around the family business, not the business, but the business of the family. And that's one of the big terms that our group uses, is that the family really works on the business of the family and lets the business be the business.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I do wonder, because some of these demolition companies, they're at that point. Some of them are not. Some are kind of still in the weeds. So we'll take a little bit deeper of a dive there. What have you seen are some of the unique challenges that family businesses face?
The biggest family challenge, or the biggest challenge in family business, is that word family. You're working with people that you love. They may be your wife, they may be your husband, they may be your mom, your dad. And so there's not really a way to decouple all of the other relationships that you have. Where when Chayton and I worked together, I loved working. He's a hustler. Y'all, this man has been an inspiration to me as well over the years. He's always going. He's thinking. And when we were together at work, we get to leave and you get to go home. And you get to have a few hours off and a weekend where you don't see those people, or you don't think about everything that was going on at work, because that's your work life and your home life is yours. With a family business, it's much different, because you'll go to birthdays and you'll see them on the weekends. And, really sometimes you can't stop talking about the work.
Okay. Do you have a number two by chance?
I do. I've got number two would be just understanding. It gets into governance and the roles of each member of the family, each member of the business, and then just, the best practice is really setting up the governance to say, here's what we want to do. Here's what we expect, and we're going to put it on paper and we're going to follow it. And then we have to we, the family members, whatever our role is, we've agreed to it, and maybe not unanimously, but the group, maybe the founders, like, I want to do X with the company. I want to build it up, keep it forever, which is what my family has done. We've talked at length, and we have a very clear understanding that we want to remain family held forever. We've got a huge group. There are 38 owners right now. There will be more, but we're kind of, not to get too much in the weeds in my head, it will all be owned by trusts going forward, which is something we'll talk about here in a minute for your guys.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've got that many owners in a room, or you've got to say, what are we going to agree to? So family held forever for us means part of that group will own, all or part of that group will own the business. So if I wanted to leave, that doesn't mean that the business is not still family held forever. It means that a core group of folks will own this business or businesses, because we've been able to buy more businesses as the core businesses have grown, and we're trying to look at ancillary businesses that complement the motherships. And so that is a huge part of our focus. And if you don't have that clear and you don't have that understanding, it's easy to get frustrated and have one family say, oh, no, that's not what I want to do. We don't necessarily want to be in this business forever. We may want to sell and go do something else.
Right. Cool. Yeah, that sounds fair enough. The dynamics are pretty crazy, and I'd assume in the demolition world, it can be broken down to, let's say, father, son, grandpa, if grandpa's still around. And then, of course, there's the splinters of the family members, wife, kids, or wives, let's say, kids, that kind of deal. So leading into the next thought is, what are some ways that family businesses can balance the dynamics of the family relationships while still being able to have a business run? Like, what are some of those tactical, like a therapist is coming to every family meeting, or what are some of those maybe brass tacks, we'll say, that help keep things together that you guys recommend?
I think the biggest thing is for the leadership to have, I go back to governance, but either an advisory board or a board of directors that helps with hard decisions. One of my favorite stories on my grandpa is that he and his brother, they were the 1 and 2 in the business. And when they had a small board, fledgling, but let's just say a couple advisors that they would meet with quarterly as they started their board. And they would each, if there was a conflict in a decision, they would each write the other's point of view as positively as they could. So it was a competition. It was kind of a double blind study. If I'm for my position, I have to write the for position that Chayton is wanting, the opposite of what I want. And that was just their practice. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Did
Yep.
I explain that well? So, and then the board picked, so they didn't know who was writing the positions, because they'd change it up back and forth every once in a while. And then the board picked, and then whatever decision was picked on by the board or approved, they would go with, no questions asked. And so that's hard, because that's giving up control. But the biggest thing is, we've seen it so many times. The decision makers, if it's your company, it's your company. But if you're asking your son or grandson or daughter or in-law to come in and help you make decisions, and then you usurp them at every major decision, they're going to leave. They're going to get frustrated. And so that dynamic has to really be thought about. And you mentioned therapists. We have been to the point of breaking as a family at least twice.
Wow.
Over the generations. And we now use family business PhDs. They haven't all been, but doctors in the family business world that have either therapy, counseling degrees, counseling and family business degrees, tons of business experience, tons of family business experience, some of their own family business experience, to come in and be a lightning rod, help the group understand maybe a certain individual's point of view, and also just to work on that governance, to work on, hey, this is what the business wants. For me, the other thing is succession planning, really having an understanding of where we're going to go. And for your client group, awesome businesses. I understand a little bit of how they do it, what they do, and any business can grow. What do you want to do with it? Where do you want it to go after this? Do you want your kids to run it? Are your kids capable of running it? Having those conversations, with your spouse, if you're the G1 or the owning member of G2, and looking downstream to say, man, my son's name is Jack. Like, is Jack interested in this? Does he have to be? Do we want it to be? And what do we want for our business? Is I think if the demolition companies you've got, I say, do we want to grow this to $20 million, $2 million, whatever it is? And once we're there, what do we do? Like in life, goal setting and planning is so important. What happens if we lose the whole business? Are we going to be able to start over? Do we want to start over? Our family, at a few key points, took out large amounts of the business's cash and set it aside in different markets. We said, here is money. This money is not to be we hope that you don't consume it. We want you to invest somewhere else, in a mutual fund, in real estate, so that you're not reliant on the business, because we have seen so many businesses fail. And statistically, businesses are going to fail. The ones that you're working with, they're doing great. If it's a family business, it's a 98% chance that it will not make it past the third generation. That's
wow. Didn't know it was so high.
G1 works their tails off. They make all the money. They work. They consume a little bit of it, but they're so busy building this company, and it creates a lifestyle, most likely. G2 may come into the business. They may work it, but they're not working as hard, most likely, and statistically, as their parents did. And it becomes a lifestyle. You have the cars, you've got the boats, you get to go out to eat all the time, whatever it is. And then you're starting to consume more than the business can make in 98% of the cases. And this is one of those, it's so hard. It's like when people go, well, I won't die. I'm not going to get, we're all going to die. Just the statistic, though, is 3 generations. And that's about a 60 to 70 year plane. The money is started and it's gone. 3 generations, or almost all of it's gone. It's not sustaining. The business is gone because they had to sell it, because the family members started to consume. And that second generation into the third, without great planning, you're gonna be in that statistic, because again, 98% of the businesses this happens to.
Wow.
A great follow-up question is, do others spur off and start their own businesses? Which some do. But if ABC Demo started and I started it and it was successful, and we had a couple of kids, some of them were in the business, and then they have kids, without great governance and great planning, a lot of hard work and a lot of luck, it's going to be gone in the third generation.
And can that be from sale too, Jared, the 98% statistic, or is that failure is 98%?
It can be sale. But what that sell means is that it's the family was putting too much weight on the business, so it had to sell. Basically,
forced
sale. Either they don't want to be involved, or they want money. They're not in the business. They're not making decisions. So it's a forced sale because of the ownership structure, and the business is not in the family anymore. If that makes sense.
Right. Got it. Okay. That's super helpful. So with the family business, how do you guys deal with the operations aspect without losing the family touch? Because that's kind of the beauty of a family business, right? It's not highly corporate, and then guess what? You scale the thing and you have to get corporate. Does it have to be as corporate as a publicly traded company? Maybe not. Maybe even more so, depending on how your management style is and things. So how do you guys still have a family touch while still getting stuff done and being highly successful?
Culture eats strategy for breakfast is the saying, and it's true. My grandfather is still alive. He's 91 years old. He's my hero. Him and my great uncle.
Young man.
It's all about how you treat your people and the culture of your business. Your people are your employees directly, and then your customers. We're in the wants business. We're not a needs business. So being in a hospitality wants business, we have to have customers come back, and we want that, but it's culture. And so as the family, Grandpa is very wise and recognized that he needed to step down a long time ago, because he at the time was having a lot of health issues. By the grace of God, he's still here, but he had the foresight to say, I'm going to step back. Now he was as a leader, so he started infusing. The culture was there, and we picked leaders very strategically that saw the culture, wanted to continue to grow it and continue to foster it. And then the family, at the right point, we've gotten a little too big, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on this, which I'm about to do, is the balance of the family. The employees see that the family still care, that we show up to the barbecues that we have for employees, that we show up, that we come out and see them and work alongside them to volunteer when the company's volunteering. The family members will go to those events, and that infuses the culture. We have metrics to measure that culture and measure that performance at the business, which you can do with kind of any family business consulting group will help you establish that. And it's one of the things that I would tell any of your group, any of your listeners, to really look into, is that something we want to do? What is our culture? Why are we good at what we do? Define that as a family, and then as a business or a family business unit. And most people listening probably do have a good culture, and they're interested in how to make it better. So that for us is still the key. Our CEO at the family business loves the culture, and very, very smart man. Plays like 4D chess, just always thinking. But he sees the value of the culture and the way it keeps the business growing.
Yeah, makes sense. I definitely get it. I mean, I have been in sales and marketing for my career, and just thinking of a sales team, it's very, very easy to be like, oh man, this is tough. I'm hearing a lot of no's. I'm hearing some yeses, but I hear so many no's. It's hard to keep in the game to hear the yeses. And if you have a fun culture of people like kind of poking you and jabbing you, saying, come on, man, let's go, let's get it, let's have some fun here. Let's not get down on each other. It's pretty cool. And I would imagine from your experience, and obviously in our clients' experience as well, demo is tough. Sometimes team members get injured or I've heard some crazy stories of even like founders passing away in an elevator shaft. Like they have a skyscraper project they're working on. And it's like, man, how do you come back from that? It needs to probably be a little bit more than a paycheck or a distribution for an owner or family members, etc. You really just need to have that culture. A lot of the time in our world, it's called like a safety culture, from the aspect of just compliance and being safe. But yeah, man, culture is it. Can I ask real quick on the culture metrics and like KPIs? What does that look like? I don't even know how you measure culture. I know how to measure profit and revenue and expenses and stuff, but are there a few quick little tidbits? Is that like team member surveys?
Team member surveys. So we do a survey that we have crafted through, again, the family business is pretty big. So for like the demo companies, one of the biggest ones is engagement. There's called a Great Place 6 and or maybe a Great Place 12 now, and that measures engagement of your employees. Nationally, engagement in employees, which owners, you're going to not be excited about this, but across the board, everybody that takes the survey, the average in America is like 34% engagement. So of 100 employees, only 34% are engaged every day when they go to work.
Interesting.
And you're like, say what? Ours is above 67 across.
Jeez.
So that shows that we've got a culture that we expect work and we monitor it. And that it is fun. We're in the business of families having a good time, but we want that engagement. So that's one of the ways we measure it. And then our own custom survey, which took years and years of distilling and trial and error, but we've got it and we give it to our employees once a year. And we see how we're doing on culture, how their leaders are leading. That's one of the biggest things. We have a lead with love culture, which there are a lot of neat books out there that you can look up on leading with love and how to do it, and still have amazing results. People are like, is it just going to become too soft? Are we not going to, get the same results? You actually get better results when you lead with love, because you're telling the person, I want to take care of you. I want you to be successful. Ultimately, because it's the best thing for you. And it also helps you, the employee, and transparently, it makes us more money. But we're giving you the opportunity. We want the best for you. The best for you is the best for you. And it also is very good for us. And with that culture, with those, if you got that kind of leadership, people will run through mountains, or over mountains and into burning buildings to save you, because they want to work for people. This goes back to sales, and you and I've talked about this a long time. People want to feel cared for,
right,
loved, and important. They want to have a value, a self-worth, and a lot of that is facilitated at work. You come to work, you are given a task, you do a good job, and you're fulfilled. And that's what I think a lot of us are looking for, whether it's fulfillment at home, fulfillment with work, if you're religious. But if you're fulfilled at work, you're going to be more likely to be fulfilled at home. If you're fulfilled at home, you're more likely to be better. And it's just this wonderful kind of upcycle.
I like it. A lot of the time, demolition industry gets the idea of a hard-nosed culture, and it is to some extent. It has to be. You're going to have calluses on your hand, but and boots on the ground. You might have a truck as well, but also these people are amazing. I mean, the guests that we have on the podcast, my clients as well, are really incredible people. They truly care about their team, and kind of like you said, my clients at least are typically not the little guys. In our industry metrics, they're usually doing $3 million or above. I do have clients doing 35 million and even bigger than that. So yeah, they've kind of evolved to some extent where they understand, like you said, what's good for our team is good for us, and what's good for us is good for our team. They've really kind of instilled that. So with that being said, we've kind of touched on finance a little bit. We got a last few bit of questions I want to go over with you. You mentioned trusts. Do you want to go a little bit deeper into anything about maybe the tactical mechanisms for long-term stability and growth financially for the family and family members?
On that question of trust, and have everything buttoned up. Don't have, if you're the owner, have a succession plan. Find a trust attorney that you believe in. And I think the best thing you can do is lay out for your children, for your grandchildren, what your intent is. And I built, let's say, a $35 million company. I want to put it in trust, and I'm going to tell my children, this is what I'm going to do. You will have access to this money if at a certain age, that's the cool thing about trust is you, the grantor, person starting it, get to do whatever you want. College, no drugs, no alcohol. Like, you have to go to college. You have to have a master's degree. The joke in my family was if we hadn't gotten our money at such a young age, we would have all had a family full of doctors and lawyers because we would have stayed in school because school was paid for. It's just wonderful, wonderful blessing. We got our little money a little too early. So yeah, we'll go out and, we all went to college, or 90% of us did. And then it was kind of off into the real world. It's wild because my family is still having everything set up now, and they're wishing some of it had been different, which the way they did their trust, it couldn't be. But your family will evolve. And so my grandparents had a very clear vision on what they wanted to have done. They got about 80% right in the trust documents, and that part of it's working. There are still frustrations, and there always will be when you set that part in motion to say, this is what I want to have happen. I do not want my children working in the business. I do want to give them the opportunity to work in the business, or I want to support. One of my grandfather's big things is entrepreneurial support. So he wants a family full of entrepreneurs. We really don't have it. We've got a couple, and that's okay if you don't. The others is missions. In our family, if you work in the mission field, you can be rewarded, or just supported. You can, if you work in the mission field in our family, you can be supported, kind of bolstered. But if the demolition, if any company wants to say, or the ownership says, I want to grow it to this, and then I'm going to sell it, I'm going to give all my money away, the best thing is that your kids understand that, and that you have those conversations, and that you put everything in place, because what happens the minute you die is that whatever you have in place starts or doesn't. My father had, when he passed away, there were new documents that he just hadn't signed. Well, guess what? Those were null and void. It's as if they didn't exist. And that's good for some parties. It's bad for others. And then just, communicating those wishes again, the grantors, what they want to have happen. Now, that being said, one of the craziest parts of multi-generational ownership is that once the baton is passed, that next generation has to make it their own. The first generation had their legacy, and maybe that legacy was growing a business to then hand off to the other part of the family. The Taylor family that owns Enterprise Rental Car, I worked for them out of college, and they had the coolest family business still. They're crushing it. I mean, they're outstanding. They are in business today to do two things. All businesses are in business to do one thing. What's the one thing, Jayden?
I mean, I guess a lot of people would say to make a profit.
That's a business's job. There's no questions asked. A business has one job: to make profit. The second, which is you get to do whatever you want on number two. Number one, make profit. Number two, theirs is to give opportunity to others. So they're giving opportunity to college kids, or coming out of college, and they make bajillions of dollars every year. But their number 1B, 1A is make profit. Number two is give opportunity to other people.
Right.
And I heard that, and I bought in hook, line, and sinker. I was like, okay, like, you guys are making money. That's the business. And then now you're giving me an opportunity to learn management, to learn a business. And the Enterprise's business was so simple. It was so neat. As I think about it and talk about it today, I could look at any branch in the nation and see how I compared, because they had matrices. It was cars on rent, like the number of fleet size, average daily rate, and then the customer service score. Those were the three things: fleet size, money made per car, and customer service score. And I could see how I was doing against any branch anywhere in the United States. And it was just so clean.
Yeah, they kept it simple. That's cool. It's definitely cool. So moving on to communication, what are some of those secrets for communication in family businesses? It seems like getting together physically or virtually on occasions is huge. Perhaps maybe you guys have a rule of 5 family members can't talk behind the scenes together. Like you
I
gotta
wish.
all be here kind of. Oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe that's something that could
No,
be
no, it's
recommended. I don't know.
have meetings with your family, with the ownership, with the ownership group. Separate that time to say we're going to talk about the business, where we're going. If you're Gen 1, or if you're in control of this business, whatever generation you are, have a game plan to where you're going to talk to the family, whether it's profit sharing, whether it's what our plan is. And we're going to do that twice a year. We have 2 family business meetings a year where we fly out the adults only, which is the winter. We've actually just started that 2 years ago, and it was great. So we leave the kids at home and we go and connect. We talk about the business of the family for half a day, and we talk about the business for half a day. And then we have really gotten into philanthropy. The single largest indicator of family held forever, generations succeeding after generation, is giving. One of the things that we've really looked at and found that the largest common denominator in families staying together and being successful, maybe not in the business, but is philanthropy. If you want your family unit to be together, give together. Find a cause that you want to give to, that your kids want to give to. Even if it's different, the act of giving is the largest indicator that families will stay together generation after generation after generation. I met a 14 generation family, 14 generations. And it's like hundreds of years, but they no longer have the business.
Oh,
They still are involved because the family set up a very, very large foundation, and it is still in existence. And family members are still interacting. And that's the cool part for me. They're not together because of a business. They're together because their family had a business, did very well, sold it, and some may still be owners. They may still have stock in whatever company it was and exists now, but they're still giving together because if they're a member of this family, they can be involved in the giving part. They can be on the philanthropy board. They can give away the money. And so we're really working hard on philanthropy on our end. So those are our 3 business. When we go together as a family, we talk about the business of the family business, and then the philanthropy that we collectively are working to give funds away as a group.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Well, last little bits we got. So getting external advice, leadership, etc. Where's a good spot for that to be, right? I mean, I know you guys are long past that. Maybe you could touch on when that happened in your family, how big the company was or how old it was. And then maybe, looking backwards and telling our audience, hey, at a certain revenue or a certain employee count, that's when you can get past the family. Because in our world, sometimes it's, like I said, grandpa, father, son, they're rocking a, I don't know, $5 million a year business. And they just are, we're stuck together like glue. But they need to get a secretary. They need to stop answering the phones. They need to get someone who can maintain the equipment, not they themselves. Was there anything that you guys saw in your family business that got away from, your grandfather and his brother? Where did that start? Where do you recommend, perhaps?
Each of the businesses had their own president. They had their own leader. We had 4 or 5 businesses. We were growing. So each of those businesses had their own kind of leadership group. Then my grandpa and his brother, grandpa was the CEO. So he was leading those leaders. My great uncle was doing the marketing. He was out promoting the company at large. So we had natural leaders kind of growing within the organization. To your point of if it's truly, I'll call it a mom and pop, or if it's 2 generations running some sons, really have a conversation with your kids are we growing and do we want to do this first and foremost? And look at your strengths and your weaknesses, a SWOT analysis. Where do we need, what's our opportunity cost? Do we need a maintenance team for the maintenancing of our equipment? Do we need a better accountant? Do we need a better, in some families, they just have to really look at what their need set is. Because you can spend all the money in the world on technology, but if you don't need technology, you've wasted a lot of money. If it's equipment, do we lease? All of these questions they know, but to really have the best advisors you can, whether it's an accountant, whether it's a lawyer, and lean on those folks, trust them. The sooner you can get an advisory board to look at your business and help you see the forest from the trees, the better. And that can be quarterly at Ideal. Our family has a board of directors that meet quarterly, or it could be twice a year, it could be once a year, depending on your size. Start getting that outside counsel to say, hey, it's like going and getting a physical every year. You go, whether you like it or not. I don't like going as I get older. One, I've got all the data year over year now, and I can see what my trend is. Am I getting healthier or am I getting less healthy? Is the business growing? And are we not just key performance indicators, but are we hitting the goal we wanted to set of setting money aside for the other generations, for having a really good succession planning of, if mom and dad die, here's what happens with the company, who takes over, who are the shareholders, who gets the business. And so the sooner you can get those advisors in place, the better. If you are at a point where you have those advisors and you're really worried and thinking about the family's growth in and around the business and what to do, maybe some of them should be in, shouldn't be in, should be taken out. There are family business consultants that are great. They are like anything else. You get what you pay for, and then you also get to choose. You may not like so-and-so. It's a personality. It's a professionalism. I mean, they're all professional, but it really comes down to personality. And we have gone through a few, when we started our family council, which was that was the business of the family that we really went to. We had a great PhD that helped us set it up, was with us for years. And then we evolved. He's still very good at what he does. We love him, but we needed more of a family CEO, someone to come in and really be able to say, hey, Jared, and I'm not in the business, but hey, Jared, you could use some coaching on how you're communicating with your cousins and your brothers and sisters. Oh, okay. I can be a little abrasive, or I can cut people off at the knees, or we need to really talk about the people that don't feel heard in the business. The people that don't get to make decisions, that don't get to go on all the trips, because that stuff will fester if it's not addressed. And I don't want to say that you need a whining fest, but there are issues that families wrestle with at all levels.
That's interesting. I don't know. Would you say, as a random question, we don't need to talk about your own family, but in general, from your experience, are family businesses typically advisable or not? Because I know sometimes people will say never work with friends, never work with family. I'm sure you have some really good insights. If you could kind of just summarize in a brief idea, I'm sure for you, you'd say it's been a blessing. There's of course challenges to it. What would you say from your experience at a broad length of family businesses? Worthwhile? Maybe should.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's actually the coolest thing you can do, because I've got cousins that I see on the business side, the business half of the family, which is my dad's side, that I'm forced to be together because we're choosing. Like, I can sell my shares at any time. I want to do business with this group of people because I want to, like the Taylor family, to continue giving opportunity to others. I love what our businesses do, what they do for our guests, for other families, and for my family. And so it's been a lot of hard work. There are tons of pitfalls. There are tons of frustration, but ultimately you're getting to be with the people you love the most, your family, and they love you. And so getting to see them succeed is amazing. And one of the coolest things that I've learned, Chayton, too, and I want all of your audience to hear this, is it's okay for members of your family to not come into the business. Make them successful and bolster them in whatever they want to do, because that's what makes a good owner. If I want to be a delivery truck driver, I want to be an astronaut, realistically, the family is better if I am that person, because then I'm a better owner than if I'm the son of a demolition company, because that's what we're talking about, who doesn't know, that I wanted to be an engineer. And if dad's like, nope, you're going into the business, I need your help. Dad doesn't need my help. Dad needs someone that's going to be great in that position. He wants it to be, he may want it to be son. But what if the son, again, is going to be this awesome engineer? Go have him be an awesome engineer, and then he'll be an amazing owner. Or is much more likely to be an amazing owner of that business as it grows, because he's fulfilled at his job. Now, if his job is in the business and he loves it, different story. And the best family business success stories are the ones that fight it out and get help and use governance practices, use outside advising, and then have great succession planning through the use of trusts and the family understanding how ownership's going to change.
All righty. Well, last thing before we share any info to contact you, if you'd like to share that, is what do you think the future trends impacting family businesses are? Like, where do you think that's going? I don't know if we want to dive into politics or just what things are doing, but are there any threats or upsides of family businesses going forward?
And the upside is you're helping your family, and then others. I don't remember the stat accurately, but 70% of businesses in the United States are family businesses. It's every bit of mom and pop. Like, if you're running a franchise, that's family business. If you've got a McDonald's, that's your family business. Or your demolition company or whatever. It's a large majority. So the future trends is that people are getting smarter. They are starting to look at this type of stuff and ask these questions sooner rather than later. And that's what we're seeing. And then just, using your advisors to maximize planning, because as a lot of your guys will know, one of the biggest things trend wise is just, with politics and planning, is knowing that the lifetime exemption goes away or goes way down at the end of next year, at the end of 25. So if they haven't done the planning, it's a 10 million lifetime exemption for your kids. That type of stuff is just, some people know about, some don't, but have the right tax, accounting, and legal teams to look at that for you. And then also Googling family business success stories and those companies, seeing who's out there, what they're doing. Subscribe to some of the family business networks that are out there, and you can learn a lot on your own.
Right. Yeah. Educate yourself, because sometimes you need to poke and prod with your team. As amazing as your team could be, I've learned that from my dad. He's like, yeah, we got a guy who's an accountant and a lawyer. And that some people may say, well, that dilutes him. But he was that sharp. He was capable of achieving at that level. And my dad would bring stuff to his table that he's like, man, I didn't even think about that for you guys. Like, that's great. So, educate yourself, which can help impact your team. And you may say, hey, what about this idea? And you go, that's great. And you go, I don't know how to execute it, but you do, right? And they're like, yeah, now that you gave me the idea and it's actually valid, yeah, we can get this done. So, Jared, this has been
Or we
awesome.
know someone who does.
Right,
Jayden,
right.
So much.
Yes. Would you care to share any contact info for people who maybe need to get in touch with you or could for advising or counseling on these sorts of questions? Or
definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way right now. I'm on LinkedIn, Jared Herschend, and you can put my LinkedIn profile on there if you want. It doesn't have a lot on the family business consulting side, but that's what I've got the most experience with. Been doing it for the last 25 years.
Okay.
Jayden, if you want to contact me, I'd just reach out via LinkedIn. That'd be the best way. I'm easy to find. Jared Herschend. Jayden, thank you so much, my friend. It was great seeing you.
Yeah, absolutely loved having you. Well, Jared, you and I are going to stay on the line, but we're going to wrap up this episode. Guys, thank you so much. It's been awesome, and hopefully you learned some really cool insights about family business, even if you're not yet multiple generations, or even if you are. I think you guys learned some really cool golden nuggets. So, we're signing off. This is another episode of Demolition Success Secrets. See you guys.
That's a wrap for this episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Stay tuned and subscribe for more explosive insights from our upcoming episodes. Until then, continue to blow up your demolition business and make the competition rubble in your path.